and welcome to Murphy's Garden. And this is just a video on hedging. So we've got lots of hedging in this garden. We've got everything from lots of box, yew, beech, hornbeam, privet, laurel, leylandii. We've got a great variety of hedging in this garden. And so for us, cutting all the hedging is quite a big job really. So we've just been doing a little bit here and there and we're getting through it. So in this video I just want to share some tips that we use to get the hedging done as quickly as possible and as effectively as possible. Hedging is a really good way of attracting wildlife to your garden. Lots and lots of birds come to the garden when you've got hedges. And it's really important not to cut the hedges between the beginning of May and the end of August, because that's the time when they're most likely to be nesting. But before you cut, always check the hedges for any signs of activity. We usually begin by cutting the box hedging and working our way through and then ending with the hawthorn, because that's the hedging that's probably most popular with nesting birds. And we have actually got a little bird's nest in our privet hedge at the front, so that's one of the hedges that we won't be doing at the moment. We'll just leave that for a couple of weeks. We have got a lot of box in this garden and we're obviously quite keen to try and prevent box blight. So after cutting we always spray the box with top Buxus, and I have done a video on that if you want further details on that. It's also really important to sterilise and clean all the equipment between moving from one box hedging and the next. This is the Amilankia tree we planted earlier in the year, at the beginning of the year, and this is the new borders that we cut out. So they're filling in. There's lots of grasses and verbena and the gora. And this bit in the middle is the box hedging, so it's quite shaggy. It's meant to be a square, but it's looking a bit of a sort of oblong shape. So we want to try and pull that in, make that a bit tighter, and then the same on the other side. And as I said, this box hedge is fairly newly planted, as is the beech hedge, which runs along the back of this border. So it's yet to fill in. Both of them have yet to fill in. And they say with any new hedge, the first year it sleeps, it doesn't really do much at all. The second year it creeps, and then the third year it leaps. It really starts to grow, and that's when you'll see the growth of most types of hedging. Then Al's just moved on to the next bit, but he's done this. That looks great. Our job is to go and tidy up. And Alistair is now in the sunken garden and he's just cutting the box hedging. So we'll just catch up with him on some of his tips for cutting hedging, and also any tips he has on clearing up as well.
When you're cutting a straight edge on a hedge, people assume that you're just running the blade flat over the top. But on the first cut you tilt, so you're tilting, you can tilt left and right, because the hedge obviously grows in different levels and peaks and troughs, and so your first cut you're actually tilting in, you're gliding like that, and what that does is it pushes it over the blade at the top, but it lets the hedge then run up over the bar and you can clip further down, so you actually get into the hedge itself, and you repeat it as a flat level. But your first cut's normally done at an angle where you've got a slightly overgrown hedge, and that will help give you a better line as well. So if you're coming along, what you'll do is angle it and then you'll come straight at the end. So hopefully we've seen that in some of the...
What equipment are you using?
This is my steel 82. This is I think it's a 3-foot bar on this. This is one of the biggest ones they do. I prefer, when I'm doing hedges like this, rather than using a pole cutter which makes you stand back, although that's quite good, I don't find that I like to be up close to the hedge itself. I like to actually, then stand back rather than having a pole cutter extended. So I like to get in close. The beauty of this one is that you can stand up and keep your back upright while you're still cutting. So you can come along and cut upright. So it's a bit overkill for a hedge like this. This is the RC version. There is another version that still do, which is for fine hedging, and really that's something I probably need to get a long term. These are obviously quite expensive, but this one is for more. Well, this will cut anything really.
And why do you think there's a little hole there? Look. Look. It's a Murphy-sized hole. That's where he's been going through. Look. Ah, that's why there's a hole in the hedge. That's why there's a hole in the hedge. Now we know. Naughty Murphy. Having cut this hedge back, it's looking really sharp and neat and tidy, and Al's just going to show us how he goes about picking all the stuff up and makes it a really quick job. So, oh, and also he's just sporting his new t-shirt, which is he got for Father's Day. I'm sexy and I mow it, from Olivia and Josh. So tell us what you're using.
One tip for you for once you've finished cutting the hedge is always to run the rake over it like this. Soft rake, obviously. You'll always get those bits that stick up. You can see here this bit's come out and just need re-clipping over. So just go along it once you've cut it, because there's nothing worse the following day when it all relaxes again and you start to see all the bits you've missed. So just give it a bit of a groom, and you'll see any bits that you've missed out, particularly these hedges, these box hedging, where you're only really clipping it once or twice a year, you know, to give it a proper cut. So yeah, you can see here there's a little bit of things I've flicked out. Just moving on to tidying up as well. I've got this Wolfgarten. You've probably seen these in the past. They're snap on and off. They're very useful for storage, and you can get longer handle ones if you're very tall. And just raking up these leaves, really nice, getting it up, and then what you can do is lift it all up with, once you've got a pile like this, you can get these grabbers, and the nice thing about these, you can actually get under the load and get it into a reasonable scoop. And then pinch them together and you've got a nice silo there. These are Spear and Jacksons. You've put other ones. Get a good dumpy bag like this, pop it straight in. We've got these dumpy bags with these metal spikes that we just use to hold it open, and yeah, really useful. I don't bother really covering with any plastic unless it was a fine surface that you really wanted to keep. I found that you can lift and blow rather than putting down plastics and sheeting and things like this, unless it was some particular surface, maybe some stone area or something. This works just as well, and obviously you can just put the mower over this if you wanted to pick up all the fine bits, and we'll just blow it under. The turf's had a bit of damage from moles, so we're looking at a bit of recovery here. And this is quite a dry area of the garden as well. But yeah, this setup works quite well. Using the grabbers obviously means you're not having to bend down, and then just using a dumpy bag and keeping it open with the poles. The only thing I would advise is don't overfill, because these can get very, very heavy quite quickly, and then obviously dragging it and lifting it becomes impossible. This is an alternative for lifting as well. It's a two-in-one. It's a rake, so you can rake things up, or you can lift them as well. And it's got this nice bent handle here. It's made by a company, Darlac, but you can, with certain areas, getting in with the scoopers is a bit more trickier. This will you slide it straight under. It's great for, it won't lift stones up. Well, small stones pass through, obviously large ones won't. And these seem quite rigid, I must admit. I've thought they'd break, but they've actually been very robust. But yeah, it's very lightweight, and so you can use it as a pull rake. And then you just scoop it like you'd do with a shovel, really. Get under it and just lift it up.
And next we're cutting the beech hedge, so we cut along the top and the front and back, and we try and taper it so the hedge is slightly narrower at the top and wider at the bottom, and that way the light gets right to the bottom. So we want to keep this hedge a nice manageable height.
I'm now cutting the box in the parterre, I won't do the yew hedging, I'll let Alistair do that, but I want to just get on and do this box hedging. The problem I've got here, unlike in the sunken garden where you can just let the box fall onto the grass and the lawnmower will just pick it up, that's obviously not going to be possible here. And the other thing is that we put the strolch down in this area earlier in the year and it's been really effective at suppressing the weeds. So what I don't want is for all the clippings to fall on the strolch, and then they'll obviously break down and end up getting weeds and things in there. So I want to avoid dropping any clippings onto the strolch on either side of the strolch. So I've got a technique. I've done one of the quadrants already. That's that one. I'm just on my way working along with this one, and I've got this fleece. It's lovely and still today, so it's a good time to do it. So I've put the fleece under the hedge. I've tucked it in really well, and that seems to really work quite well. And then when I come to pick it up, I literally just pull it from the inside like that. The only thing is it does pick up a little bit of the strolch, but not much. I can just pull it off, I suppose. And that works really well. The piece of equipment that I'm using to do the box hedge is this. This is a Stihl HSA 2.6. Really effective little piece of equipment. It's got two different heads. This is the one that I'm using. It's got another one which is quite useful for doing, say, like cutting back geraniums and things like that, but this seems to work for this job. It is surprisingly powerful, so you must be really careful, even though because it's battery powered it doesn't sound nearly as vicious as the petrol powered machines, but you can do a lot of damage with it, and you could quite easily cut your finger off with it. So just be really careful if you do use one. But I'm finding it's just the perfect job for this. It's quite intricate area, and it's just right for this. So I'm just gonna get on and use it. And one of the most important things, which I keep forgetting to do, is before you take the covers off, which I keep forgetting, is to just shake the hedge just to get all the loose bits onto the fleece before you lift the fleece off. And poor Murphy's getting a bit fed up with all this hedge cutting. I think he's thoroughly bored. Poor Murphy. So to speed things up a bit, we're both cutting this box hedging along this gravel path. So Alistair's got his petrol cutter and I've got my electric cutter, so that makes the job a bit quicker when we're both at it. And I'm also taking the opportunity to cut the Nepeta hard back as well, because it's sort of gone over really. And then next for the yew hedge, so this is quite exciting because this is the first time we've cut this yew hedging. We've topped it, we've cut the sides. I did do a video on hedging before, and with yew hedging it's really important not to top it at the very top until it reaches the height that you want it to be, because once you cut the main stem it becomes quite a slow growing hedge, and yew has got this reputation of being slow growing, but it really isn't as long as you don't cut the main stem.
So this hedge is now at the height that we want to keep it at. So it's now time to top it. So quite excited to do that, and that will really neaten up the garden. So we begin by putting up a string line just to follow, to keep it nice and straight. Because it's very formal, it's important that it looks good and looks really straight. Oh, we've just cut through the string line, whoops. So anyway, I'll show you how we did it. So we've got the 2 poles at either end, and then Alistair's just measuring the height, and then we attach the string from pole to pole, and that ensures, so long as you don't cut through the string, that ensures a nice straight line. So yeah, that will hopefully look really nice when it's done. We're getting on quite well. The U is done, the box is done, we've still got some picking up to do. The parterre looks incredible because this is the first time really that we've topped these hedges. Some of them still got to grow up a little bit, but it's getting there, and I think it's making the whole area look kind of bigger really, because we've just taken the height down, and it's all looking quite tight. Got quite a bit of picking up to do. That's the worst bit, but I'm going to go ahead and do that now. We have a bit of a running debate going on whether it's best to put blankets or fleece down to catch the hedge cut clippings, or whether it's just best and quicker just to get on and cut and worry about the picking up afterwards. So it'd be interesting to find out what you do, what technique you find to be best. A few days has gone by since we did the box hedging in the sunken garden. We're back in this area again, and we're cutting the Portuguese laurels into umbrella shapes. The next hedging that we're doing is the hornbeam, so Alistair has cut that side and tied it in, although there are a few little stragglers up the top. But he's now just doing this hedge, so it's put on a lot of growth, as you can see in the first 3 trees, and he's actually added another tier to the top, and he's just in the process of tying all those in, which you can see he's done to these ones beyond the ladder, and then he just cuts any loose bits off just to make it flush and to make it look nice. And you'll see behind that the hedges are all done now. So this is the yew hedge. It's looking lovely. So this part of the garden is looking really tight. The lime trees have been tied in, and they have put on quite a lot of growth even in the few months since we did them, the video on bleaching lime trees. The box hedging's all cut. You see on the left it's much more thicker and established on the left than it is on the right for some reason. But anyway, that's all cut. The bits did fall onto the gravel, but I just picked them up, went through picking them up by hand, which was quite a lot of work. However, then Alistair just did it with the blower and blew off any excess bits, so the gravel's pretty free of clippings. The yew hedge is looking absolutely great, and we did, because we were cutting the box, I did cut the Nepeta hard back because it was starting to go over, and we'll have another flush from that. And if we head now into the sunken garden, again, that's all been done. The Portuguese laurels have also been cut into nice umbrella shapes, which is lovely. And the box hedging here, and you'll just see that this is the white kind of area that I did. Just quickly show you that as well. So that's the Nicotiana and the Cosmos. It's looking really pretty. I'm really pleased with that, and the nice miscanthus as well. So that's looking nice, and you can just see the limes, and the layers of hedging looks really, really good. And I think this area benefits the most from the clippings of the hedges because it just pulls it all together. Looks really good. The roses have been cut back because a lot of them had gone over, so we'll just wait for another flush. We're going away next week anyway, so I thought it's a good opportunity to cut them back. So just go out of the sun, that's better. And of course you can use hand shears to do particularly box hedging, and that gives a really good finish, but we've just got so much of it that it just isn't really practical for us to do that. It would just take far too long. I do, however, use the hand shears. I always do the hand shears on these box balls, and that gives these really a nice finish. And then finally the top borders. The
box all being done there, and you'll notice that we have put some edging in this area too, which perhaps we'll do a video on that. So we've got quite a lot of footage of us doing it. So we've made a good start. We've still got more to do. We've still got the lalandi, which you can see at the very back border, and also, if I just pan around there, the mixed hedging, the hawthorn, which is always a prickly, not very nice job. So this hedge is the lalandi hedge. It's still quite slow to knit together, but it's getting there. And then next we've got, this is a very mixed hedge. It's mostly hawthorn, but a lot of wild rose as well. And it's a particularly horrible one to cut because it's so prickly, but it is loved by the birds and lots of nature. So it's great for that reason. So Alice is just picking up, he's made piles as he's cut, he's raked into piles. And then he goes along just picking it up using the rakes and the equipment that he's got. They really are very, very good, particularly in this type of hedging. And he's again picking up on gravel. So this rake means that you can just slightly shake it and the stones just fall through it. You can pick up the very prickly hawthorn and rose, which is covered in big thorns, and you don't get jabs in your fingers. Lastly, it's the laurel hedge. So if you use machinery to cut laurel, it will cut the leaves, they're bigger leaves, and it will cut the leaves into two, which can look a little bit unsightly. If it bothers you, then use hand shears. But for us, this hedge just lines the driveway, so it's not very noticeable. So we favour convenience and speed and getting the job done quickly. So we do use machinery to do it. So we've pretty much finished all the hedging. Alice has been busy today just doing the lalandi. So that's the lalandi you just see there beyond the beech. So I like having the layers. So we've got the beech and then the lalandi and the box. So the layers just really add to the garden and just add sort of a new dimension, an extra dimension. So I hope you've enjoyed it. It's a lot of work, but I think it's well worth it. So we're just enjoying the garden. It's beautiful weather and it's just so lovely to enjoy the garden. Thank you very much for watching, and join us again in the next video. Bye for now.